Hey everyone, it's Michael Greenwood. Yeah, so today we're going to talk about David Hawkins as Power versus Force. This is one of my favorite books, one that I'm currently studying amongst some others, right? So I'm a big believer, a big advocate of lifelong learning. So being a student in life, and you don't know what you don't know. So we've all got unconscious incompetence basically about different things. We don't know what we don't know, and even somebody who's completely enlightened, it's almost like there's no such thing as being completely enlightened. If you think you know everything, then actually it's just arrogance. You don't know everything. So I'm just a big believer in studying and applying things and self improvement. So just want to share this with anybody who's like minded like me, and that maybe you've come across this, maybe it's on your bookshelf, you've not read it yet. Another thing is, I'm not a fan of just reading a book once and then putting it on the bookshelf, and then if somebody asks me what it's about, I don't even know what it's about. Um, I believe in reading a book again and again, studying it, applying it. That there's no point in just reading something, a non-fiction book, and then not applying it. So, I wanted to talk about this book in this video because once you've been applying, the principles or something, and then you can teach it. That's where it starts to unlock other parts of the brain, and you start to learn even more as a a teacher of the topic. So basically, to unpack this, and I'm probably not going to be able to do it justice in this video. So go away and read the book after watching this video. Order it from Amazon or whatever. Do yourself a favor with it if you're looking at if you're into energy and self improvement in general, basically. Right. So, power versus force, the hidden determinants of human behavior. Now, a bit of my background, I have got an IT degree, but before I did that, I studied a bit of psychology, and I actually wanted to be a psychologist when I was young, amongst some other things, like you do. And I've got psychology A level, so I'm very much into particularly cognitive psychology, and I use that in my work a lot. So, I work in digital marketing, and cognitive psychology is very, very important. So, the way that people use things, the way that people think and process information, is very important. In kind of the things that I do. So, why would they click on a button on a website, or or interact with a paid ad on Facebook, or why would they click through on a Google ad? So I'm very much into it helps with the marketing. Um, so and I'm also, as I've got older, and you start to notice that you need to preserve your energy more. I start to look into energy and how energy flows, and discovering things like energy flows into us, and we've got to preserve it. And we can get sucked into negativity, so negative energy pendulums and things like that. So I'm really into that kind of thing, and studying it quite deeply to understand how I can get more out of a day, and just reach a highest a very high state of consciousness, really. So I've got a deep understanding of what's going on, and not hiding behind anything, as in not kind of subduing my emotions and things like that. So I no longer do things like drink alcohol. I'm completely teetotal for nearly 3 years now. I do like coffee, so that's kind of the only vice that I've got, kind of thing. I eat quite cleanly, so I try to avoid like white sugar and stuff like that. And I exercise, and so I believe that we're to add a bit more context, I believe that we're not just this human body. I'm quite spiritual as well. So I believe that we've got mind, body, spirit, and soul all working as one. So yeah, and I'm really into meditation. So getting to know me inner self more and more. But it's a journey, and there's loads that I don't know. My mind is blown out absolutely every day. I'm a busy business owner, and I do put time aside every day, and I suppose I've got that luxury of being able to do that as a business owner as well. I say I'm a busy business owner, but I am in control of my time, which is a nice luxury. But that is something that I've created myself, and I've had to go through a lot of stress to get where I am, and I'm still going through a lot of stress, to push forward and come out of my comfort zone. So that's me anyway. That's a bit more about me, just in case you're interested. But let's get on with Power versus Force then. So David Hawkins talks about a this map of consciousness, which is describes it as a logarithmic scale ranging from 1 to 1,000, with the top of the scale being 7 to 1,000, which is enlightenment, so knowledge, understanding. But we've got to kind of take a step back, and we'll look at the kind of four pillars of learning. The first pillar is that we don't know what we don't know. It's called in learning, like officially, unconscious incompetence. So that's where you don't even know that there's something else you could be doing, and all that kind of thing. I give an example like, somebody doesn't even know like a car exists. If you don't even know a car exists, you don't even know that you'd be able to use a car to get somewhere, but then you don't know how to drive it. And then like at the other end of the spectrum, we learn you've got you've got conscious competence, and that's where it's basically tacit knowledge, where you can be driving in your car, and then you've got somewhere, you've traveled a few miles, you don't even know you've got there because you've been doing it subconsciously. It's all embedded. You become a really expert. You put your 10,000 hours into learning that thing. So that's conscious competence. So there's a couple of others, but I won't go into those in this one. And then the overall underpinning principle of learning is repetition, and that's why I don't believe in just reading a book once. I believe in studying a book, so reading it many times and reading different bits of it and applying it at different points when we need to in our lives. So it's okay saying we've read all these books, and I've got lots of books. But how many are we actually studying and applying? Because no point in just reading something or absorbing some knowledge. We're not going to be able to apply it until we've actually. We're not going to be able to really truly learn it unless we apply it, and then also perhaps teach others as well. Because that's what I'm doing now. As I'm learning these principles, I'm getting a lot out of this learning. I'm not only, from a altruistic point of view, helping, to people to with their self improvement, also helping myself, and so yeah, right. Let's get into it then. So at the very top, we've got enlightenment, which is 700 to 1,000. Kind of middle ground is courage, which is a 200, which is that's where you start to transition between force and power. So generally, we don't want to be forcing things; we want to be using power. And at the very bottom we've got shame, which is a 20. So that's the most negative emotion, and also that can lead to the most destructive behaviors as well. Now, let's say I'll give you an example. Let's say you're in the street and somebody tries to mug you. Unfortunately, heaven forbid. You can experience fear, which is fight or flight, get you to freeze. Because basically that's 100 on the scale. But then if you can get yourself into anger, that's 150. That's when you can actually fight back if you need to fight back. If in that situation, obviously, running would be the best option. In any of these circumstances. In that kind of situation, if you can get away. But obviously, if you can't, then and you have to fight, then you're better off being in anger, which is 150, and kind of upgrading to that. It's not, it's not as good as being in like an higher, state of human consciousness. But it's better than being in that fear where you're just like frozen in your tracks. So if you can upgrade to anger at 150 rather than fear at 100, that's better. And then at the top of the scale, where you're into power. So remember, courage is kind of that 200, where it's transition, where you're transitioning into force, from force to power. So above 200, you've got love at 500, joy at 540, peace at 600, and then, like I said, enlightenment at 700 to 1000. So what Hawkins suggests, is that individuals and societies and the society that we live in can calibrate at various levels, and that will influence our behaviors and interactions and things like that. And it goes quite deep, really. And I combine this with other books that I've read and stuff like that, like reality transurfing. So I think about energy pendulums, and when you're around somebody, and if they themselves are quite negative, got negative self-talk, maybe the gossip, maybe all that kind of thing. Getting involved in the office politics, and he said this, she said this, and all that kind of thing. Then that can actually be very draining of your energy. So this for me is all about energy and how you use your energy. Because when you're working from a place of love and joy, it's actually giving you energy. It's actually maintaining your energy, because energy flows into you, and then you maintain it. We've got to maintain our energy, basically. But then when we're in fear, which is false expectations appearing real, which actually 95% of things that we fear, they don't even come true anyway. So it is just false expectations appearing real. But the thing is, fear, if you've got no money, for example, to give an example, let's say you're a business owner, you're running out of money, you're running out of cash flow, or you lose your job, you can go into a state of fear, which is a 100 on the scale. Now, that's better than getting into like shame at a 20, where you just really, that's really affecting like, your self-worth and really your self-confidence and things like that. So that can really lead to a lot of destructive behaviors, guilt as well. That's one of the emotions that leads to a lot of destructive behaviors. And it can stop people from taking positive action in their life and actually showing up and starting to build, and it can be a negative spiral, experiencing these emotions. So we need to get out of these emotions and as soon as possible. I know it's easier said than done. I didn't want to go into it too much, in this video about past traumas and dealing with those and all that kind of thing. But that is a thing, which can affect, what I'm talking about here. But when you're in fear, so fear can be a good motivator. But if you're working from fear, I hear a lot of business, I hear a lot of business people saying they're working from fear and adrenaline and doing fight or flight, but you can only do that for so long. It's much better to work from a place of love, joy, peace, enlightenment. So let's move on to, and I'll just give you a little overview as well before I get into it. So power, really, what we're looking at here before I go into this next bit is it emanates higher consciousness level. So it's actually you're getting in touch with your higher consciousness, where you're really getting to know yourself as well. And that's why things like meditation can get you into this higher consciousness and keep you there, where you're kind of like rising above it or taking a step back on your own self, where you're not as susceptible to inputs that are coming in all the time and trying to drive you in a certain direction. If it's interesting in Star Wars, for example, where they do the Jedi mind trick, where the more weak-minded will be more influenced by it, but then there's some species in Star Wars, I suppose, or aliens, or just people in general, like Jedis, who are less susceptible or not susceptible at all to the Jedi mind trick. So it just shows that, if you walk into a room and you feel that those negative vibes, and it's like sucking your energy, that might be a negative energy pendulum that you're around. I'm just kind of going off on a tangent on the energy pendulum. So this is from Reality Transurfing. Negative energy pendulums are actually created by people and societies, but then the pendulum can become more powerful than them and actually start to then control people. So it can kind of get out of control. So you've got to be wary of those as well about how power works. So when you're doing things like meditation, it's giving you protections, and it's giving you resilience as well, against these things. So yeah, it's about power emanating from these higher consciousness levels. So like I said, your love, joy, peace, enlightenment, they're important. Um, and also things like operating from a place of truth, integrity, authenticity as well. So even me creating these videos now, I'm very mindful that I want to be the most authentic version of myself. So you can actually see behind the scenes and the real me. I'm very wary of that. And that's a very constructive thing, because if you try to be one thing, then try to be another thing, and then try to be another thing, then who are you really? What's your true self? In this world. So it's about being open and honest, and acting with integrity, including doing what you say you're going to do as well, and for yourself as well as others. So showing up for yourself, so that you can prove to yourself that, and that starts to build inner confidence, because and that's what confidence is really. It's doing a thing consistently over time to prove yourself that you can do it, and that removes the fear. Right. So this is interesting, and how deep you can get with this, where you can remove the fear, or that can dissipate, or you can reduce it by simply showing up every day, putting the inputs in, and proving to yourself that you can do it. Look, if you, I'm a big believer in not adopting a victim mindset on things, and actually taking control of what we can control, and everything's a decision. Um, in psychology, it's called having an internal locus of control, not locus, LOCUS, rather than an external locus of control. So if you've got an external locus of control, you tend to blame situations and environment, and all that kind of thing. If you've got an internal locus of control, you take control of what you can control. You understand that the decisions that you make do matter. In fact, Viktor Frankl, he wouldn't let anybody change his mind, and there's a gap between stimulus and response, that as human beings, we've got that ability to make a decision. We've got how we react to a situation. So something may happen. We can look for the good in it, look for what's the lesson in this, and then, right, what am I going to do next? Yeah. And it's often good to take a pause if you've got, the if you can, in that situation, depending on the situation, to think about it, to think through the consequences, to think through all the inference of doing it or not doing it. And that's why when I learned chess at a very young age and played chess for a long time, it teaches you so many moves in a head. So be more like a grandmaster. I'm not a grandmaster, but nowhere near. But I do think a few moves ahead in chess, 5 or 6 moves ahead. Grandmaster, I think it's 9 or 10. So thinking many moves ahead, and it helps in life and business, and not being emotionally reactive to things, actually thinking logically, and being stoic about things. Whereas like power can be very life affirming and constructive and building, and creative, and it creates harmony and unity with those around you as well. So it's for that. If you're acting from a place of love, and then everybody's on the same page, then it's much better outcome. Whereas force would be, you know, it's obviously originating from lower consciousness levels, and manifests in terms of manipulation, control, ego, not seeing other person's point of view, not not working from emotional intelligence, um, and very coercive, and it divides people rather than that unity that I mentioned, and often leading to conflict and resistance as well. So people are resistant, and that's why when you're forcing, people will resist, or situations will resist. So I'm a very big believer is imagine a river where you're curving yourself to the to the flow really. So you're moving around with the flow. You're going with the flow. You've heard that one, haven't you? You go with the flow, rather than trying to resist the current and stuff like that. And if you can ride a wave, in the ocean, it you know then you're better than trying to swim against the tide, aren't you? That kind of thing. So and it works in all aspects of life. So uh, magnetism, principles of magnetism, basic physics. If you're going after a client and you're pestering them all the time, it's gonna trigger sales resistance. It's if you've got a partner and you always kind of pestering and stuff like that, that can end badly and stuff like that. So you've got to go with the flow with things. It's like when I used to do kickboxing, what they taught us is when you're taking a punch, to roll with the punches. So a punch should come towards you. The punch should come towards you like that, and then you don't want to just take it like that because that will cause a shock. So you want to roll with the punches like that. Yeah. So very much, go with the ebbs and flows, and use power, not forcing things. Um, so I've got some examples then. So look, in life itself, in a relationship, if you use power in a relationship, that'll manifest in, you'd be using love, understanding, empathy, emotional intelligence, seeing it from their point of view, establishing that true connection, being honest, doing what you say you're going to do, so acting with integrity, being disciplined to actually have a plan, to progress. So having goals, having purpose, very important. So power, and it fosters love. It fosters all these eye consciousness, emotions, which of course lead to those actions. Whereas force in a relationship would be lead to like control, blame, playing the blame game, gaslighting, perhaps emotional manipulation, all that kind of stuff. Because a relationship is based on mutual respect, and a relationship that's based on openness and honesty is going to thrive. But if you're trying to force things, it's not going to last very long. You can't build a relationship on jealousy. Jealousy is very much insecurity as well. So yeah, a relationship built like that, on those weak foundations, not on strong foundations, will most likely eventually erode. Um, and in terms of resilience as well, resilience is a big thing. Bad things will happen to us, right? So we need to get that out of the way. Bad things are going to happen. We've got to look for the good in the bad things. And also, when bad things happen, it's like, just like recently in the business, I've had a couple of bad things happen, but I've just like, right, deal with them. Michael, you're going to deal with them, and then that's it. Then that's it. You've done it, and then move on to the next thing. So they're logical in business, and understand that it's going to happen, and look for the good and the learning in it. What can we do better? How can we mitigate that risk? How can we grow? Yeah. So resilience. Actually, coming out of the comfort zone and facing adversity, um, and even seeking out challenges is a good way of. You've probably heard of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So it provides inner strength, emotional stability, sharpening the tools. So doing things like meditation frequently, at least 20 minutes every day, puts us more in touch with our inner self, our true self, rather than all these inputs that are coming in and trying to shape us and stuff like that. So it can help us to stay on track with our goals. High vibrational state, when you're experiencing love, you're not experiencing fear. Fear is stressful, fight or flight. And yeah, so the thing is, power does provide us with inner strength and emotional stability, inner peace, resilience. Whereas force, it creates stress and tension, and it's a constant struggle. You know, when you've been struggling to do something, it's a constant struggle. So it's about having a calm confidence, having a process to follow, coming up with a process, doing the hard work to come up with the process, to follow with that. Right. So for if you've got a job, and then I'll go through business. So we talk about how you apply the principles of David Hawkins's book to career growth, for example. Is so like feeling fulfilled in your job is one of the main things. Really, a lot of people, we need money, but a lot of people work for the fulfillment, and that's one of the main things. Feeling that they're part of something, so aligning with the work and things like that. So that's very much coming from a power point of view. So we've all got personal values, so it might be truth, growth, feel like we're contributing to an organization and things like that. And when we're working like this and it's all aligned, this is where it can uplift your energy and not deplete your energy. Because when you're forcing something, it's very depleting of the energy. When you're working with power, it's very much conserving energy, really. And I'm sure if you can resonate with this, you've started a task in the morning, and you've kind of tried to force it. You can get depleted of your energy very quickly. But if you have you ever started working on something and you get into flow, and you almost like can't stop? That's when you're in power. On the other hand, if you're working in a job from a force point of view, it could be if you're having to deceive, so this is deception, coercion, or fear, and this can really reduce your motivation in general, and your energy. And sometimes there are some roles out there like that. Even though they pay well, they might not be in tune with your personal values. So there's a lot of people who've had jobs where they've been really well paid, but they're having to use these techniques in the job, or the organisation is kind of rotten, or corrupt or something like that. And they've moved to other jobs, and they've got paid less, but they've been happier because it's the company vision and values have been more in line, or completely aligned with personal values. So that's feeling fulfilled in your career. Then I suppose like the nitty gritty of workplace dynamics as well is, you can apply power versus force into this. So, like say you've ever been in a dream team where you're all operating with high consciousness levels, you're all working towards like this big project, and everything's really flowing. That's when you're using power. You're all on the same page. You're all singing from the same hymn sheet, and it helps you. Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich talks about a mastermind that's created when there's two or more people, and it creates like this je ne sais quoi kind of thing where it's a mastermind. So two people get together, and it creates this third mind essentially. It's called a mastermind. So it's where it's greater than the sum of the parts. And when you're working like this, you experience no or fewer conflicts. But then on the other hand, and that's using power. When you're using force in terms of workplace dynamics, there'll be things like gossip, office politics, negativity. He said, said, oh, she's trumped me on that promotion. Uh, oh, there's nepotism, all that kind of thing. Um, this can indicate low consciousness using force in, and it's obviously a very toxic thing to be around and very draining of your energy. And the thing is, you can get sucked into these negative energy pendulums, which is like groups of people or organizations or society, like, and then, starts to suck you into it. You can get sucked into it and start to think like that, and kind of lose yourself in it. And then, so that's employment, career growth. And then finally, to wrap up the video, if you're into business, this might be helpful. So I'm a full-time business owner. I don't have a job. Yeah, so the two things that this has helped me with so far, and feel free to comment and anything, that you can think of with this. Like I said, I'm a student of life. I'm very open-minded, growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. So any learning, I'm send it my way. Leadership and culture and decision making, I'm kind of covering for this bit. So leadership and culture, if you kind of like force, using force would be control, using fear, so false expectations appearing real, or you've got to do this or this or whatever. Manipulative, like leadership styles, management styles, things like that. The thing is that they can produce short-term results, but micromanagement, which is a good type of force, can really harbor resentment in when you're managing people, and result in low morale, high churn rate, so high turnover of staff, and they'll look for another job, basically. So it really is one of those things to avoid, and it can lead to burnout of staff as well. So like lower health and well-being and whatnot. For example, like a CEO who rules and operative word there, rule with fear and micromanagement, which is force, may see a rapid decline when it backfires. Basically, it will backfire. It's only a short-term kind of way of doing things. So it's whereas if you lead by power and empower your team, then you'll be operating from values such as integrity, actually authenticity, and service as well. So service is a big one for me. So the way that I see myself and my team is I'm there to serve my team. So I'm there to make sure my team have got everything they need to do the job well, including me being approachable. And if they make a mistake, we're all human beings. Mistakes happen. To get them to take responsibility for it, to correct it, but not to blame them as well. So go back to relationships. So it's very much like like relationships. If you blame, then you put somebody on the back foot and you trigger resistance to listening to you. Like leaders for me, for example, in my business, we inspire trust, that they can come to me, with a problem. How do you do this, Michael? I'm not sure about that. I wasn't quite clear on that brief. And you can actually attract better talent. You can attract talent in that way. They want to work in that company culture, and it's not just about culture, company culture, but and then also it's more sustainable, for the success of the organization. Like an example of using power would be, just having a shared vision as well. So having a shared vision, your team understanding the why they're doing it, not just the what as well. Why we're doing this, what we're trying to achieve. Like today, we've done a video production for a business center that we're at, and we're looking at other business centers to do videos for. So I'm putting a page together. So I'm imparting to one of my team members what we're doing. So we've got a couple of video assets. We're putting this onto a page, so I'm going to send that to one of my team members and get them to buy into that, and they can create some content around that. Really, and that's just one example. Like, why are we doing it? Okay, not just what we're doing, not just do this, do this, do this. Like, why are we doing it? And then decision maker. That decision maker is very important in anything, in life in general, in business, in your job, including whether you should continue doing that job or go for a promotion or you know shift to another organization, like horizontally or something like that. But power based decisions are very much relaxed, looking at long term value as well, logical, not letting the emotion cloud it, trusting your instincts. And when you've got that, when you can trust your instincts, that's where you're coming from a place of power. So you can make a decision based on, you can really think about something but not overthink it, and then it's usually your instincts can guide you in that, and your intuition. So a bit about that. We've got higher faculties. We've not just got five senses. So it's not just what we see. It's not just what we hear. It's nothing like that. That that is very important, the five senses. But we've got higher faculties as well. We've got intuition, human intuition. Um, so and we're the only beings on planet Earth with those higher faculties. So we should use those in business to help us in making decisions. Now, if we make a decision based on force, we might get short-term gains, for example, like cutting corners, but it'll come and bite us at some point, and it can also damage brand reputation and stuff like that. So making decisions that lead to long-term value, they come from really, you know, considering all the options and thinking about the consequences of doing it and not doing it as well. Sometimes it's better not to do anything at that time, but to have explored that option. So I'll give you an example. It's like, and it comes back to like leadership and management as well. So, like I said earlier, like don't don't do things that lead to staff burnout. Well, like if you invest in employee well-being, so give them time off when they need it. Don't over scrutinize, and kind of bad word, but like it's the way that you frame it. If they make a mistake, don't kind of just make yourself unapproachable for next time, because that staff member is going to want to leave. So get them to buy in why they're doing it. So what are the external consequences as well are not doing the thing? So why are we doing it? We're doing this so the client will be happy, so that we can hit the company vision, which is to whatever that is, X, Y, or Z. So getting them to buy into the vision, the mission, the creating a good culture to work in as well. So yeah, a good investment, a good decision would be investment in employee well-being, to to have a long-term sustainable company. Whereas an example of force might be kind of cutting costs on things. So it's like cutting your staff down, so you've only got a couple of people doing the work of three people, is not only unethical, but it's also short-sighted, because those two people are then going to want to leave and become burnt out and stuff like that. So it's just unethical business practices like that. But yeah, I'll wrap this up now. I hope you found this useful. Power versus Force, David Hawkins. I'm Michael Greenwood, and I will see you next time.